Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to talk about Steinberger guitars because I think they're a really underappreciated company, and they also had some really unique engineering that went into developing some of the models that they produced over the years. And for the purposes of this video, we're really only going to be talking about the Newberg era of Steinberger guitars, because that's kind of going to be where all of this, the uniqueness and the engineering factors in. So first of all, what sets a Steinberger guitar apart from, let's say, a Fender Strat or a Gibson Les Paul? Well, first of all, the neck is made out of graphite, or graphite composite if you want to call it that. So what this does is it gives you an advantage of being impervious to humidity and temperature changes. So you can basically take a guitar that's been stored, let's say, in an 80-degree room and take it out to a 30-degree gig out in the middle of winter, and it's not going to change tuning, or it's, the neck's not going to warp or anything like that. The other thing is they're obviously headless. So there are some advantages to that, one of which being there's no tuning pegs for the strings to slip on, so the tuning stability when you use like the tremolo is pretty much like a Floyd Rose, where it's going to return to pitch pretty much exactly, and you're not going to have strings that slip. There's also the advantage of, because it doesn't have a headstock, it balances pretty much in the perfect playing position whenever you use it with a strap. So, with some guitars, they might neck dive, or they might just, kind of move around. These pretty much stay exactly where you leave them when you take your hands off of them, which is, it's kind of an underappreciated aspect of them. Another thing is, what sets them apart is you can pretty much get them in any pickup configuration that you'd ever want. You can get them in HSS, HSH, SSS, HH. You can also get a humbucker in the bridge, and then a really slanted neck pickup, so an HS combo. And then you can just get a single humbucker if you want it. So you have those really a wide variety of pickup options. And then you also have the Transtrim. So what the Transtrim does is it bends all of the strings at the same ratio with each other. So normally if let's say you take a Fender Strat and you depress or pull up on the tremolo, all of the strings pretty much go out of tune with each other immediately. What this does is it bends them all at the same ratio. So in any position where you move it, all the strings are going to be in tune with each other. And so on the Transtrim version 2, which is kind of the most famous version of it, it has 6 total positions, 5 of which are different from your standard tuning position. So for instance, you have your E standard tuning position, just for 440, and here's an E chord. You can then go up to F sharp standard, here. Then you can go up to G standard, which is here. Go down to D standard, here. You can go down to C standard, here. You can go down to B standard, which is here. So that's pretty handy, especially if you play in like a cover band where you have to maybe capo songs or change the key of, especially if you're working with female singers doing male vocal songs. It's also pretty handy if there's a key change in the middle of a song. So, let's say you've got 100 songs to learn, and a bunch of them have key changes. Well, you can shave a whole lot of time off of that. You can also do some cool things like emulating the pitch wheel of like a keyboard. You can kind of get that effect of a synthesizer playing, doing a lead line and then bending an interval up or a chord up. So something kind of along the lines of this, like. So that's pretty handy. And then there's also some pedal steel emulation you can do with it. And I wouldn't say that I'm proficient enough with the Transtrim to do that, but there is a guy named David Torn who made a video back in probably the late 80s that I will link to in the description, where he pretty much does all your standard pedal steel licks with just using the Transtrim, and it's really it pretty much sounds exactly like a pedal steel to me. So those are pretty much the things right off the bat that'll set a Steinberger apart from your average electric guitar. Now, it's also important to mention that pretty much most Steinbergers will have a wooden body. Like this one has a hard rock maple body, but the GL series, which you might recognize from Eddie Van Halen using one, or Mark Knopfler, those are all made out of a solid piece of graphite, which has a faceplate that lifts off that has all the electronics on it. So those are a little bit different. There's not really a whole lot of difference in stability of the instrument because it's the neck that usually causes tuning problems. So I think that pretty much illustrates everything I wanted to talk about that sets it apart. Now let's talk about maybe some pros and cons if you're perhaps interested in buying a Newberg-era Steinberger, or if you need help deciding on if it's right for you. So something to keep in mind about using something, especially with a Transtrim, is you have to use calibrated double ball-end strings. And what those are is that they are double ball-end strings that are cut to a particular length, and the Transtrim is able to work off of that principle. And that's why it's able to move all the strings at the same ratio. There are two manufacturers that make calibrated strings, both of which are Labella strings and Diodario. I wouldn't even mess with the Diodario strings because they straight up do not work with the Transtrim. They do fit, but they do not transpose properly, and it's mainly because of the tension. The length is right, but the tension of the strings is completely wrong, which doesn't leave you with enough room to adjust the jaws of the Transtrim. So the Labellas are your best bet, and there's a few places you can find them from. Where I usually get them from is Headless USA. This video is not sponsored by them. That's the only reliable place I know where to get them from. And the gauge that I use on this are 10 to 46s, and the model of that from Labella is STP 1046, all one word. And the reason why I like the 10 through 46s is because they work best for the low tunings. That's the highest gauge you can use. Everything else is lower than that. So you have like 9 to 42 and 8 to 38. So you really, the heaviest gauge of string you're going to get is 10 through 46. And as you could hear with the Transtrim, they work fine in the low tuning positions. The feel maybe isn't quite there, but once you can kind of adapt to it. It's pretty easy to adapt to it because, for one, the whole system is so stable. If you just adjust with a lighter touch, everything pretty much plays in tune, and the tension sort of becomes a non-issue after a while. So another reason why you may want something like a Steinberger is portability. The lack of headstock obviously makes them a few inches shorter. And with the models like this particular one that I own is a GM4T, and it has a bolt-on neck. So you can basically disassemble this and put it in a backpack and take it on a plane with you. So a major advantage to the bolt-on neck is the fact that the neck itself has threaded metal inserts in it, and then they use machine screws to affix the neck to the body. And what that allows you to do is take it off as many times as you want. So you could really travel with this guitar and really just do fly dates as much as you wanted without having to check a normal guitar case or even put it in the overhead bin. You just take the neck off and throw the neck and the body in a backpack, and away you go. So that pretty much covers a whole lot of practical aspects to why I think Steinbergers are really underappreciated guitars, and I think they're fantastic. And it's kind of shocking that there's not something like this on the market currently. And so I'll kind of close, and I'll talk about what my guitar has going on specifically, and kind of what my philosophy was with choosing this particular model and setting it up the way that I have it set up. So this I got this with the intent to mainly get Strat tones, and I wanted to be able to get some Les Paul tones as well. That's why I have the humbucker. So the pickups are, bridge pickup is a Seymour Duncan Stag Mag. The neck and middle are both lace sensor golds. And then I have the master volume here, which pulls up to split the bridge pickup. So you go from to that. And then I have a pull up on the master tone here, which allows the neck pickup to be put in any combination. So I can get a Telecaster kind of tone and get that, the bridge pickup and the neck pickup active. So that's pretty handy. And then I can obviously go to the 2 position, which will have all 3 pickups active with this. And I really prefer that position for direct recording, so just plugging straight into a console. It's got a really great rhythm tone to it, and really articulate sounding. Okay, so that brings me to the last thing on here, which is this little mini toggle switch. And what this does is it rolls the tone off very slightly on the neck pickup. And the reason for that is because this is a 24 fret guitar, the neck pickup actually sits closer to the bridge, which consequently adds an extra octave of harmonics to the pickup. So that it sounds a little too trebly. It almost kind of sounds like the middle pickup on a Strat. It has sort of that nasalness to it. And my objective was to be able to get Strat tones out of this. So here's what it sounds like with the switch disengaged. So this is it normally. And so then here it is with it rolled off very slightly. So you can hear when I flip that switch on, it kind of sounds more in line with how a standard Strat would sound. So it's important to remember that if you wanted to get one of these to replace a Strat or a Les Paul, I think you're going to be disappointed. If you have a Strat or a Les Paul at your disposal and that's the sound that you want if you're recording or something like that, then this is not going to replace that. If I want those tones, then that's what I use. This is a great live guitar for doing that sort of thing. I do track with this. I track solos with it, as well as tracking direct guitar signal. So if I want an ultra clean sound, I'll use this for that. And so I think that's just something to keep in mind if you're looking at one of these. Don't expect it to completely replace, your standard lineup of guitars. But anyway, I think that pretty much wraps up a lot of my thoughts about it. Like the video, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought, and if you have any suggestions. Also, let me know if you want me to do a guide on how to set up the Transtrim, because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I've sort of developed a technique to get it playing in tune ridiculously accurately. So, again, let me know if you want me to make that video, and stay tuned for more content. Thanks.